Hello, this is Steve Pavel from DSD Business Systems. In this presentation, I am going to show you how Sage Intelligence can help you prepare for your 1099 processing. So Sage Intelligence is a wonderful tool, Excel-based tool that can help streamline and help your accounting department in many ways. So this is an example of how it can be used for 1099 preparation for processing. So at a high level, your 1099 processing steps or preparation for processing is you want to make sure that your vendors that are subject to the 1099 reporting are set up properly in Sage 100. As an example, you want to make sure that the business type or vendor type is correct. They have a 1099 form code that's set up that makes sense. They have a tax ID number, a default 1099 box number, and if there are a need for override 1099 name and address. So you want to check all those things, and you don't want to look at each individual vendor and vendor maintenance. That's the way you would traditionally do that. So we're going to show you how you can streamline that. The second step, after you get that taken care of, all your vendors set up properly, is that you want to actually compare the 1099 form and box amounts that are in Sage 100 to the actual payments for that vendor and make sure that they're consistent or understood. And then you can go ahead and identify anything that needs to be fixed. You can make those fixes, rerun your report, and then the report should actually tell you before you actually submit your 1099s to Atrix, it should actually tell you exactly what's going to be populated onto those 1099 forms when you submit them to Atrix. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I have a demo company here, and I already put the Sage Intelligence report. I uploaded it to this demo system. So I'm going to go ahead and within the company, this demo company, I'm going to launch Sage Intelligence. I believe we have, yes, we have it here. It's under AP reports. I called it DSD 1099 report. So we're going to go ahead and run that. Now I have a couple of parameters here. The default is 2023 calendar year. And I did put in the option to indicate which form 1099s you want to use. You may want to look at all, or you may say, I just want to look at NEC forms, or just miscellaneous, or just dividend, etc. So on this, you can actually click this lookup here, and then you can see which 1099 forms are actually populated within this particular company. And I can see here I've got C, which is the NEC form, M for miscellaneous, and N for none. So I'm going to go ahead and just select all at this point. All right, then the next question, I got to say okay then. So it's running that query and pulling the Sage 100 vendor data for all the vendors that met that criteria. Now the next question is, what is the check date range that we want to include the payments for? And I've got it defaulted to the entire year. And again, I can click the lookup here on the form 1099 and see what's actually populated. And again, I have those same ones, C for NEC form, M for miscellaneous, and N for none. I'll go ahead and select all and click OK. So now it's running the query of the payment data based upon the filters that I supplied there. And obviously, how long this is going to take is dependent upon the size of your database and that company in those tables that we're querying. All right, so when it finishes, it is going to pop up a Excel document, Excel workbook. All right, so you don't really need to know, or really don't need to use this, but just so you know, we've got all the check data, everything you'd need here on the first tab. The 1099 data, which is the 1099 payments table, is on this tab. I went ahead and created a pivot table off the check history. That way you can look at each vendor and see their, the total that you paid them, as well as the check numbers if there's questions about that. Otherwise, the other one is the pivot table of the actual 1099 forms. So let me back up to the 1099 data here. So again, the first step we wanted to take care of is to say, do we have all the data correct in Sage 100, and is it complete? Okay, so what I would typically do here is in Excel, we'll just go ahead and do a data filter. Okay, and then I can filter by any of the column titles here. So let's go through this. So the vendor type, I means individual, and B means a business. And what that impacts in Sage is whether or not the taxpayer ID number is formatted as a social security number or as a federal EIN. Okay, the next one over is the Form 1099 type. And this is being pulled from the actual vendor master file in Sage. So we can see here that we've got NEC form and miscellaneous. If I look at just the NEC form, I see that's way it is set up in Sage for the vendor. And then this column is the actual 1099 history file. So I would expect those to be the same, that the vendor's coded as an NEC vendor, and the only data on record in the 1099 file for that vendor is NEC form as well. And then I can look at the default box for the vendor, which is box 1. And then this is the box that pertains to the actual 1099 file for that same vendor. So far, so good. These are all matching up, which is great. And if you're curious, like, well, what is box 1? Is that the right box? You might want to have handy your 1099. You can get this from the IRS website. What we can see here that the NEC form, box 1, is in fact where the non-employee compensation goes, which looks good. So that looks good. So this is telling me column H what the actual 1099 box amount is. And then column I is pulling again from the checks here. It's pulling what the total is that I paid that particular vendor. And you see that I have a match, which is great. This is just the miscellaneous box 9 checkbox. This column K, these are made up, tax IDs, obviously, but you're looking for, if you see something that's blank or you see something that's not a number or looks like it's not really a number, that would indicate, hey, you need to get that tax ID number fixed in the Sage 100 vendor maintenance. All right, and then this is the address that's going to be used for the 1099. That's the vendor's address, line 1 and 2, the city, state, zip code, and so forth. If you're on a newer version of Sage 100, a couple of things. This taxpayer ID number might be encrypted, and you might be seeing encrypted values here, which is fine. You're primarily looking for blanks there anyway. And then also on the newer versions of Sage 100, you have the option to create an override name and address just for the 1099 form. So I populated that over here on the far right as well. All right, so just looking at this raw data here, I've got a manageable number. I can see that everything looks good, other than this doesn't look like, that would be good to put an address line 1 with a name there. And this one doesn't have an address line 1, it has an address line 2. So these are two things I might want to fix in the Sage 100 vendor maintenance for that vendor. All right, let me switch over to look at just miscellaneouses now. All right, and the same thing, we've got matches here, and we've got matches there as well. And we can also see that the totals match up. And we do have tax IDs there. And then we've got some addresses here. So that looks good as well. I don't think I see anything here that needs to be changed. The only thing, looking at this, this is the miscellaneous, again, the M here, that it's box 10. And I think box 1 is rents, and box 10, I don't know, let's go see. So let's bring that 1099 form up for miscellaneous. And you can see, yep, box 1 is rents and box 10 is gross proceeds paid to an attorney. So might want to think about whether or not that's the appropriate place for that. I'm not a tax expert, but I believe that regular attorney payments should actually be on the NEC form in box 1. So that might be something, if we check into that and say, yeah, that's the way that should be reported, we'll go ahead and make that change in Sage 100 vendor maintenance. And then, yeah, we'll make that fix and then we can rerun that report. So let's talk about the other pivot table here. Again, I have a manageable number here, so I could do it just, yeah, I can do all this review using just that tab. But if you had a lot of vendors, hundreds or thousands of them, you might want to use a pivot table like this, which indicates, if whether or not you're seeing any differences for any vendor here. And I can see that grand total, is there, and it matches the 1099 box amount, matches the payment amount, so the difference is 0. So I'm in good shape there. Okay, so pause this for a second. Actually, I'm not sure how to pause it. Okay, so that is an example of the 1099 report itself. And if you were to say, well, I'm going to go ahead and move forward on processing these 1099s, you could use either the filtering here, I'm sorry, on this tab, or use the pivot table to identify what is the grand total. So let's do that as an example. So if we said, yes, I want to look at just the NEC forms. Okay, and if I actually process the NEC forms, I should see this total, that these are the vendors that'll get the NEC form. I know they're all going to be reported in box 1, and I know that that's going to be my total. If I look at the miscellaneous form here, same thing. These are the vendors that are going to get the miscellaneous form. I know what box is going to be populated for each of these and what the grand total is. Yeah, so that looks good. All right, so the concept behind this is to make sure that you have, yes, they have a tool that will that when you run it, you can basically review everything related to 1099 amounts and reporting, and make that a much quicker process. Thank you very much.